We'll begin the Maamer of באתי, לגני תשכ"א. A few things about this Maamer. But first of all, let's begin with the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maamer. As we know, the Maamer באתי לגני Yud 5-7-10 was given out by the Frierdiker Rebbe for Yud Shvat. There was 4 Mamarim that were part of it. The first, each one was made up of 5 oisias, 5 chapters. The first of these Mamarim was באתי לגני. באתי לגני is 5 oisias that talk about the purpose of the Shechina, of bringing the Shechina down into this world. The continuation to it was from Yud Gimel Shvat, which is the yahrzeit of Frierdiker Rebbe's mother, Hayesheves Beganim, which also continues in a certain sense to talk about that idea of transforming the shtus of l'umas, the shtus of the other side, into shtus of kedusha, which that's the idea of the karshim, the krashim of the Mishkan, which are the letters kuf, reishin, and we explain these letters, and it goes on this concept to explain and ends off with the fact that in order to bring the Shechina down into this world, the Jewish people are called Tzivei Savaya, the army of Hashem. And it explains 3 meanings in the word Tzava. Tzava means time, Tzava means beauty, everything set up in a beautiful way. Tzava means an army. And these are 3 aspects in why the Jewish people are called Tzivei Savaya, because by using their time in this world, by bringing everything into its full potential, its full beauty, and its full setting, and doing things with Kabbalah style, as a result, they're able to make a Dira B'Tachtonim. With that, we end off Hayesheves Beganim, and then starts the third Maamer, which doesn't have a beginning and an ending, because it wasn't yet, the beginning and ending weren't added yet by the Frierdiker Rebbe, because it was for Purim, which was later, going to be over a month later. And that Maamer has the 5 oisias, which talk about the idea of Netzach. It's interesting, this year's ois, we begin with the Maamer of Purim. So it's the beginning of a new Maamer, a Maamer of Purim. Purim, we all know, is a time when we go beyond understanding. And that's actually what the 5 oisias of this Maamer, they explain the idea of how a Jew goes beyond understanding, and in this way he wins the war to bring Mashiach. The first ois of the Purim Maamer continues on from where it left off in the previous Maamer, that the Jewish people are called Tzivei Savaya. There was mentioned only in short, and now the Frierdiker Rebbe goes on at length to explain the idea of what a war is, what an army is, that is the name Tzvais, which is one of the names of Hashem, and that name is connected to the sphere of Netzach and Hoid, which is the concept of victory. And the Frierdiker Rebbe explains the idea of victory, that in order to be victorious, victory is something which is connected specifically not to a small person, because a small person doesn't have a need to be victorious. Whereas a king, when someone is rebelling against him, specifically when there's an opposition, that's when that brings out his power of victory, and in order to be victorious, he's ready to do anything. He's ready to give away all of the treasures, which usually they're something which are hidden. Nobody even looks at them. Nobody even sees them. They're completely hidden. And only in specific, special times, like if it's this marriage, the wedding of his only son, he'll take them out, but he won't use them. For the war, not only does he use them, he squanders them, to the extent that the king is ready to even put his life in danger and to give up his life in order to win the war, because that's how deeply set the midah of Netzach, of victory, is. And that's the idea of what happens. Milamayla, Hashem reveals the treasure of above in order that Jews should be able to be victorious in the war. And he goes on in the Maamer and in the next Maamer to explain what that treasure above is. So that's the ois of this year, the ois that talks about Netzach, victory, that begins the idea of Netzach victory, which that's the midah which is needed in order to win the war and bring the revelation of Mashiach in the world. The Rebbe, as we know, every year would say a Maamer on a different ice of Basi Legani. The year Tafshin Chaf Aleph, which is 60 years ago, the same was the ice which is connected to this year, and that year was also on Shabbos. When Yud Shvat was on Shabbos, it was a very interesting thing. In general, by the Rabbeim, specifically we find it by the Rabbi Rashab, and by the other Rabbeim as well, is that the concept, there were special times set aside for saying Chassidus. One of those times was before Kabbalah Shabbos or after Kabbalah Shabbos. By the Rebbe, generally, Chassidus Mamarim were said by a Fabrengen. Yud Shvat, when it came out on Shabbos, was one of those times that there would be a Maamer that the Rebbe would say, and in this instance, in Tafshin Chaf Aleph, the Rebbe said the Maamer after Kabbalah Shabbos, meaning the Rebbe obviously went up as Chazan because it was Yud Shvat. After finishing Kabbalah Shabbos, before Kigavna, the Rebbe went to the place, the set place for saying a Maamer. The Rebbe said a Maamer, this Maamer, and then the Rebbe would again say the Maamer on Motzei Shabbos by the official Fabrengen, a Maamer usually with additions, also usually was the same Maamer, but just with additions, with added things. So we'll learn Mitzvah Hashem first now the first Maamer from Friday night, and then B'ez Hashem perhaps we'll learn also the second one as well. We'll do this in a way that we'll learn it inside and try and add added explanations to what it says in the Maamer. Basi legani achaisi kalavisa b'medrish legani lignuni lemakim shaya ikari b'tchila diikar shchina b'tachtayim ma'isa. The Medrash explains that legani means that Hashem says, I came to my garden, or lignuni, to my garden house, which is the bridal house of the king, which is the place where my original place was originally, meaning that originally the Shechina was down in this world. Through the various sins, the Shechina was removed from one sky to the next, meaning it was elevated, it was removed from the world, so it wasn't able to be perceived in the awareness of people in this world. And the further, the more sins there was, the more it was pushed away, further away, as if it went to a different sky, until it came as if to the seventh sky, meaning that's how far it was the furthest possible removed from this world, from the awareness of this world. And then the tzaddikim, and through them the Yidden who continued to do in the ways of the tzaddikim, they brought it down from above, down here. Until Moshe was the seventh, and all sevens are beloved. Because he's the seventh, he was able to bring it back down into this earth. And this is the meaning of Basi Legani Lignuni. In time Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem says, I returned to the place where I originally was. Vihine, continues the Rebbe, mitzat cheito egel nas oida pam siluk hashchina. This is something in the Frierdiker Rebbe's Maamer is not brought. That in the cheito egel that caused the shchina to again be removed. And this is why the commandment came of us that there has to be an action now in order to bring the Shechina down inside every single Jew. Meaning, we have to bring about because through the Egel, the Shechina again was removed from this world. As a result, now we have to do something. We have to do Avodah in order to bring it down, that it should rest amongst every single Jew. And as a result, there became the Amshacha, through also in the Mishkan, in the simple sense, and in the world in general. Meaning that the avodah of a person is to bring the Shechina into his own existence, into every single Jew. But through that, there became also the Amshacha of the Shechina in the place where it's the main place in the physical world where the Shechina was revealed, which is the Mishkan, and as a result, in the entire world. Now, what's the idea of the Amshacha that was in the Mishkan? The Rebbe is continuing now. This was in the both in Ois Gimel of the Maamar of Basi Legani, as well as in the beginning of the Maamar Yeshavas Baganim, that they took the sheker, the falsehood, and the foolishness of the other side, and then they transformed it instead to be a connection to Hashem, the Krashim of the Mishkan, the place which set up the Mishkan. This is also the general idea of Karbanis, which is the Beis HaMikdash, like explained in Basi Legani in the second verse. They brought offered on the Mizbeach a physical animal. But although it was bringing a physical animal, it was a spiritual avodah, which through that they brought closer the powers, the faculties, and the senses of the person. And this is also something which is the avodah of every Jew, that he does a carbon, he brings his chushim and koiches closer to Hashem. He transforms the shtus of lu'umazeh, of the other side, the foolishness of klippa, which covers over the truth of Hashem, and he transforms it instead to shtus of kedusha, which goes above understanding. And as a result, he brings closer, and he offers his own animal soul to Hashem. And again, the Rebbe is bringing out what the Rebbe just said a sentence earlier, that the avodah is done by a person in his own soul and in his own Beis HaMikdash. Similarly, also the avodah of Karbanis is done by a person with his own Nefesh Habamis. As a result, this brings also the actual bringing of the carbon in this physical sense in the Beis HaMikdash, and as a result in the entire world. Because the Beis HaMikdash includes the entire world. It starts with the avodah that a person does in himself, and as a result, he brings about that the world in general should be a dwelling place for Hashem. And as a result, it fulfills the purpose of Hashem in the creation of the world, that Hashem had the desire that he should have a dwelling place down here. Now the Rebbe continues, and this is something that it says in the last Ois of Yeshavas Baganim, in the Ois Yud, the Ois of last year. How does one do this avodah of making a Beis HaMikdash in his own heart, in his own soul, and of bringing karbanis of his own nefesh habamis, and as a result bringing godliness into the entire world? How does that happen? That happens through the fact that a Jew enters and becomes a part of the army of Hashem. Now, tzivay savaya, the betzava yesh gimel pirushim. In Ois Yud of Maamar Basi Legani, of the end of Yeshavas Baganim, the Frierdiker Rebbe explained, as we said earlier, that Tzava has three translations, three interpretations. Tzava Lashin Zman. Tzava means time. Person has a set amount of time upon this earth. Tzava Milashin Tzivyin. Tzava means something which is set up, Ratzain, where there's a will, the yoifi, and the beauty, shuinin hiskalus, which means including everything and making everything become included in godliness. And the third thing is vitzava lashin chayil, which is the army, validei gimel inyanim elu, mashlim makavana didira batachtenim, and through these three things, one fulfills the purpose of dira batachtenim, as explained in the first 10 Oisius of Basi Legani. Now the Rebbe continues to explain the idea of tzava, the way it's explained in this Maamar, which we will do Be'ezras Hashem next time.